Hey friends, it's Thanksgiving Day, and I've had a couple of conversations over the last few days where the topic of gratitude has come up. It's been invoked either by the conversation itself or as a prompt to kind of set the heart space for the conversation. And it's been I've had a really I've heard some other people say some lovely things about gratitude as a state of calm and repose, almost like gratitude as a condition where stress dissolves, because gratitude is something we can choose in every single moment. It's not something that we have to be provoked in order to feel, or be in response to a specific thing in order to feel. It's something that can be our continuous, unbroken relationship to the world, to everything. And so then I picked up the Tao Te Ching this morning, which my mom recently gave me a translation that I've never read before. It sits here right here on my desk. Stephen Mitchell, Tao Te Ching. And I opened up to a random page, which is kind of how I like to read that book. It's little kind of poetic reflections. And the one that I opened up to said, I'm going to paraphrase, but it said something like, success is as fragile as failure, or maybe not fragile, but success is as shaky as failure, and hope is as hollow as fear. And then it sort of like starts with this statement, headline statement, and then it goes on to kind of explain the thinking behind this. And basically, to kind of summarize them both, the reason why these statements about seeming opposites are true is that they both arise from thinking about the self, thinking about the small identity. And then the ending is something like, think of the world as yourself, and you will then be able to effortlessly care for all beings. So it's that kind of very consistent, perennial message of philosophies like Taoism, Buddhism. I think I generally associate this more with Eastern traditions than with Western ones, but it's certainly present in all of them. But the notion of dissolving the sense of the individual self, which I know I've spoken about this even just a couple days ago, the stillness that we find in meditation as being a reservoir of beingness, which is actually the only thing that can dissolve our patterns. It's the only thing the only thing that can give us a sort of like sense of the mind stuff being not identified with us. It's part of us, it's there, it's a real thing, but it's not who we truly are. We can kind of take it one step back and observe it, and all of a sudden the power starts to drain out of it, and we start to have some real agency, some real choice over what thoughts do I really want to think? What do I want to be spending my mental energy on? And I think for me, gratitude is the thing that naturally arises for everything. You know, I did my post on this yesterday. The things that feel like burdens in my life when I'm kind of all up in the thick of it, if I can get them peeled back a little, if I can find some stillness and dissolve the identity with the small self, you know, the thinking of the self, thinking about the self tendency, then all of a sudden I can feel gratitude even for my problems, even for the things in my life that I'm like, man, I wish I could make this go away, or I wish I could overcome X. All of a sudden, instead of feeling that way, I sort of go, oh, wow. It's like, look at this amazing video game. I mean, if you were playing a video game and your character never had anything difficult to do, wouldn't it be a pretty boring video game? How much money would you spend on that video game? How much time would you invest in that video game? If all you were supposed to do is walk around and just be like in like nice fields and like pretty pictures, and like maybe you get to drive a boat every now and then, or I don't know, something, whatever your fantasy of perfect abundance and peace is. How interesting would it be? You wouldn't want to play that game. So even the difficulties, even the things that give us the most kind of like trouble to overcome, from a certain place, from the place of not thinking about the self, thinking of the self, I think is what it says. Very quickly, those things, you know, we start to recognize them as the ways in which our deeper self is gaining leverage over consciousness. We start to integrate more and more consciousness. We become more awake because of the problems, because of the struggles. And I suppose that's also something that I think it helps me on a day like Thanksgiving to bring gratitude for those things really online in my life, you know, to make sure that because there's such an abundance in my own life, and such a vast amount of beautiful abundance and wonderful people and resources, and just I feel like I live an incredibly rich life, and so I have a lot to be grateful for that is unambiguously positive. But the action of gratitude is not just being happy about the things that are good in our life. You know, that's a kind of very passive form of gratitude, because it just means when something good happens to us, we feel good. Well, yeah, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. You know, everybody wants more of that. Happy to have more of that in my life. But the real kind of practice of gratitude and the power of gratitude goes way beyond that. It goes way beyond feeling good about the things that are good. It takes us to a level of capacity to perceive the world as it is, to stand really on the ground and not be affected by the success or failure, or by the seeming benefit or the seeming deficit that we're experiencing in any given moment, and be grateful for the totality of it. Be grateful for the whole thing. Because I also think we engage with the world differently. How we exert care in the world is categorically different when we're coming from that larger place than when we're coming from, what makes us feel good, and be grateful for that only. So I suppose that's my own sort of provocation to myself on Thanksgiving this year, is to bring some focus to the areas of life that are not on the surface of things, things that would seem to make me happy or benefit me in a direct way, but to bring some attention to the aspects of life that are challenging, but that from just a little bit of a step of remove are treasures. They're the parts of the video game that make me want to keep playing. So it's kind of where I've landed this morning on Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful holiday, folks. Much, much love. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I'll see you tomorrow.